brave enough? Am I strong enough to follow the desire that burns from within, to push away my fear, to stand where I'm afraid? I am through with this, 'cause I am more than this. I promise to myself, alone and no one else, my flame is rising higher. I am the fire, I am burning brighter, roaring like a storm, and I am the one I've been waiting for, screaming like a siren, and life is burning brighter. I am the fire. I've been sacrificed, my heart's been cauterized, hanging on to hope, shackled by the ghost of what I once believed that I could never be, what's right in front of me. I am the fire, I am burning brighter, roaring like a storm, and I am the one I've been waiting for, screaming like a siren, and life is burning brighter. I don't believe I'll fall from grace. I won't let the past decide my fate. Leave forgiveness in my way. No, take the love that I've embraced. I promise to myself, me and no one else, I am more than this. I am the fire. I am the fire. I am burning brighter, roaring like a storm, and I am the one I've been waiting for, screaming like a siren, and life is burning brighter. I am the fire. 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 The fire.
Welcome to the fucking show.
I am the fire.
In honor of my dad.
Warning. This episode contains content that may be disturbing or sensitive to listeners. Discretion is advised.
Welcome to Dutch Girl, Myrtle Beach. Crime has a ripple effect. It affects the entire community, not just the victim and the criminal. Crime destabilizes communities. It causes fear and mistrust. It often has a clear connection to ongoing tensions or mistrust present within the community and in the community's connection to the outside world. Crime is a sensitive topic because of the egregious abuse of human rights and liberties that it entails. Approaching crime and victims with sensitivity and with a willingness to tell the truth regardless of circumstances is what can allow healing to begin for communities impacted by traumatic events. These are the rules for this chat discussion. Do not harass, threaten, or do anything to another chatter or panel guest that is unwanted. This means do not attack their character, race, heritage. Do not dox. If you disagree with someone, respond to the subject, not the person. There is no place on this channel where hate speech will be tolerated. Please do not cause derision in the chat and disrupt the flow of chat in this live stream. This live stream is for adults only. That means 18 and over. Do not impersonate another chatter or a moderator on this channel. If you are caught, you will be permanently banned from this channel. Anyone coming in and harassing, doxing, or threatening my panel guest will be immediately banned from this channel. Anyone caught bashing the Dutch Girl Myrtle Beach moderators will be immediately timed out and banned from this channel. Engage with empathy in this live stream. Treat all other chat participants respectfully, even when you disagree. A heated argument does not lead to constructive discussion. Report harmful behavior. If a user is insulting others, making violent threats, or violating the chat rules, report them to a moderator rather than engaging in direct confrontation. The moderators will handle it. Stick to the facts. Use credible sources like news articles, police reports, and court documents. The goal is to inform, not to spread misinformation. Avoid speculation, especially in unsolved cases. Spreading unfounded theories can be highly disrespectful to victims and their families. It can also distract from ongoing investigations. Do not glorify criminals or violence. This includes refraining from expressing romantic or admiring sentiments towards perpetrators. Such glorification diminishes the victims and the severity of the crime. Focus on the social impact. Discussions can be more productive if they focus on systemic issues related to a case, such as failures in the criminal justice system or broader societal problems. My name is Duchess, and this is Dutch Girl Myrtle Beach. I'm from South Carolina. I'm a podcaster. I talk about true crime, corruption going on in South Carolina. I also make missing flyers for missing people all around the United States. I appreciate you being here. I hope you'll consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell if you want to receive future updates on my live streams and videos. Make sure you got your notepads and your pens and your tinfoil hats. Buckle up, the Dutch bus is getting ready to leave the station. Hey everybody, welcome back to Dutch Girl Myrtle Beach. My name is Duchess, and this is where I talk about cooking and adventures, and sometimes we talk about true crime. And tonight, AJ Always Something and I are diving back into the Spivey case. What you don't know. Are you prepared? Did you bring your notebooks and your pens? Did you get your tinfoil hats? Did you leave the drama at the door? It's so good to see you guys. It's been a while since I've been back, and I appreciate you guys joining me for this very important conversation. I've been reading the chat while we were going through the intro and the chat guidelines, and I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your kind thoughts on the passing of my father. It's been very difficult for me and my family. But it's one day at a time. So right now, it's time to refocus things and dive back in on some very important conversations that we need to have. And one of those conversations is about the Spivey case. So everybody, please welcome AJ Always Something. AJ, thank you for joining me for this very important conversation. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing better. Every day it's just one day at a time, one step in front of the other. It's been a lot to go through lately, but I'm just trying to settle everything with my mom and get things in order for my dad's estate. And I
Well,
just wanted
if you
to,
need anything, that's just that. And I'm sure this goes for everybody else too, that you can always reach out.
I appreciate that so very much. And there's the Duke in chat. Hey, babe. Thank you so much for being here also. He's my rock, and I couldn't get through this without him. Y'all say hey to the Duke. I do
Hi.
appreciate him being here too. So tonight we're going to dive in to a recent update about Alan Wilson, who has reached out to ask for an independent solicitor to look at Scott Spivey's case. And, well, this has kind of got my spidey senses kind of set off about this. And AJ and I have had a long conversation about that. So I want to make sure that we do this the right way, which, when we talk about things here on this channel, I feel like it is very important for us to always try to stick to the facts. We can speculate about things that we think might be happening, but is that productive? I always want to give you guys information that I get from reliable sources like court documents, news articles, police reports. I don't want to give you guys information that isn't factual. And we don't want to glorify crime. We don't want to glorify criminals. I think having these debates and these healthy discussions without attacking each other. This is why, we want to have conversations. We don't want to have arguments because that defeats the point. If you want to challenge what someone is saying, challenge the point of what they're saying, not the person. I think that is the construct of having a healthy debate about these topics. And I see we've got a bunch of people coming in. Hey, everyone that's coming in and joined us. Thank you so much for being here. I did see that we had Carrie. Thank you so much for becoming a new member. Welcome to the Dutch Bus. And we got Alma C because Cash asked for a short name. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. If you received a membership from Alma, please thank her. And I appreciate that, Alma. Thank you for supporting the Dutch Bus. Welcome in, everybody. I want to give a big shout out to my moderators. If you guys have questions, if you're being bothered by someone in the chat, if you need a link drop, if you need any information, please look to your moderators who are in blue. They can help you. When we're having discussions here on panel, sometimes I cannot always be looking at the chat because we're going over information. And I try to go back and forth, especially if I'm sharing my screen. So if they need to get my attention, Michelle can text my phone and let me know if there's something that I need to address immediately. But I do thank you all so much for being here. And if you don't mind, please hit the like button. Please share this out because this case is local to me and it is very, very important for my community in order to get answers. And there's a very good chance that Scott Spivey's family is listening. And Scott's family deserves justice in this case. And I want them to be able to have a fair shot at getting justice for what happened to Scott Spivey. If you are not familiar with Scott Spivey's case, please do go back and look at my playlist. You can go through and see that there are other videos where we have talked about Scott Spivey's case and the things that are happening to his family. They are in a civil lawsuit right now because what actually happened in a stand your ground case, well, you don't follow someone for 9 miles and claim stand your ground when you shoot someone and unalive them. And regardless of how the scene played out that day, which just happened less than 5 miles from my house, Scott Spivey should be alive today. And I do believe that his family deserves justice. And that is why we talk about a lot of cases here in South Carolina, because this is what I know best. So I do appreciate everyone joining me, and we are going to jump right in. Michelle, thank you so much for being a member for 37 months. Peekaboo, thank you for being a member for 11 months. And there's Elizabeth coming in for 35 months. Michelle, okay, show it to us. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being a member. And there's Michelle, 37 months. Elizabeth, you asked for it. Elizabeth, you knew better. You knew better. And yes, please do not dox, harass, or contact anyone mentioned in this live. And this is why I feel like it is so important for everyone. If you just are coming into this stream, if you missed the very beginning, I think it's very important to go back and listen to the chat guidelines, because it kind of lets you know how we want things to go in this live stream for it to be productive and to make sure that we have constructive conversations without having all this extra drama. So, but I do appreciate everyone being here.
And let me just add on to that real quick. So there's already been speculation and things said about the family and social media. So I just want to make it clear, like, I don't even tell anybody until the day, like right before, that we were even doing a live. So please do not contact the family or try to drag the family of either side into any of this, because this is just what me and Duchess do, because there was stuff that we found. So this is what we decided.
Exactly. Chico, thank you for being a member for 13 months. I love you back. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. Row to Row, thank you for being a member for a year. I really appreciate that. Thank you so very much. So before we get started, though, we have so many members and gifted memberships. We got to throw in one of these real quick.
Seatbelts, everyone!
Double Dutch bus coming down the street.
We got to get the Double Dutch bus in. That's so Crystal. Thank you for being a member for 13 months. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here. All right. And hey to everybody. I'm sorry that I have not been able to say hello to everybody. I'm just trying to stay focused, because after I played the intro with my dad's picture at the end, I kind of got emotional, and I had to namaste and take a deep breath after that. So I appreciate you guys understanding. Callie, welcome to the Dutch Bus. We're so glad to have you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dive in, and we're going to take a look at this article that talks about this new additional review that AG Alan Wilson is asking for in Scott Spivey's shooting case investigation. So let me share my screen so that we can jump right into that. Let me get right over here so I can share my screen. Okay, and this article that I'm going to be sharing is from ABC 15 News. And here you can see a picture of Scott Spivey. And of course, there's the headline, A.G. Wilson asks another solicitor, by the way, in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And we're going to jump right into the duo, Wilson and Barnette, because I think there's some things you guys need to know in order to make a informed decision about what's really happening in Scott Spivey's case. So Wilson is asking for an additional review of this shooting case. Now, to take it back, and I think WPDE will probably recap this for us, but the article basically reads, South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson requested the 7th Judicial Circuit Solicitor Barry J. Barnette to review the investigation of a deadly 2023 shooting in Horry County involving North Myrtle Beach businessman Weldon Boyd, and a letter that was written October 3rd of 2025. Wilson sent a letter to Barnette, which is in Spartanburg County, asking him to review evidence from the incident on Camp Swamp Road that resulted in the death of Scott Spivey. And according to the letter on September 15th, which we're going to take a look at, the 15th Circuit Solicitor requested the office to review SLED's investigation, which was primarily a review of the case built by the Horry County Police Department. And in this letter right here, this is a letter to the Honorable Barry J. Barnette. He is a solicitor in Spartanburg County as well as Cherokee County, South Carolina. That's in the western part of the state. I know we have a lot of people from South Carolina in here, so you are probably familiar with Barry Barnette. And you may be familiar with him for some other reasons, because there's people that know Barnette from some other things, and we're going to jump into that later on. Now, regarding this investigation, Wilson writes, on September 15th, 2023, the 15th Circuit Solicitor requested my office to review SLED Investigation 33-23-0112 involving the shooting death of Scott Spivey, which was primarily a review of the case built by the Horry County Police Department. And after a thorough review of the evidence, our office declined to bring charges on the case based on Protection of Persons and Property Act, immunity from arrest, and prosecution grounds we felt were clearly met in the case, and therefore we could not ethically move forward with any charges. As a result of this investigation and an accompanying civil suit, the investigation was released to the civil attorney Mark Tinsley and turned over to the family of the deceased, Scott Spivey. In the review of the evidence by the family, Mr. Tinsley, the attorney, raised several concerns with the Horry County PD investigation of the case. And if you guys have watched these other live streams, well, you know the concerns. We have Paul Vescovi, who was dismissed from his job, and that's because he actually wrote on a piece of paper after speaking to someone on the telephone for Weldon Boyd to act like a victim. Now, I don't know about you guys, but any police officer that's telling someone who is a possible suspect in an unaliving situation, road rage incident, that's a no. Also, Weldon Boyd had some friends that worked at the department, and one of those people actually stepped down when he got wind there was going to be a possible civil lawsuit that was coming. So instead of waiting to get released from his job, he stepped away. And that's because him and Brandon were actually very good friends. They were hunting buddies. They'd known each other for a long time. And to me, that kind of crosses the line. You know, when you call your buddy who is a police officer to come to the scene of a crime that you've committed because, well, you might have an inside, somebody that's going to side with you. Like, that's not how it should work at all. So, as a result of some of these concerns that I just mentioned, that's what Tinsley is concerned about. SLED was requested to conduct an investigation into whether there was any misconduct by the Horry County PD officers in investigating the death of Scott Spivey. Inherent in that investigation is whether the alleged misconduct changes the facts and evidence that resulted in the original conclusion that this case met the elements of South Carolina Code Section 16-11-440 under the South Carolina Protection of Persons and Property Act that provides immunity from arrest and prosecution. Now, this letter wraps up by saying, due to the fact that we have already reviewed and made a decision on the investigation regarding the death of Scott Spivey, I would like to assign this investigation to your office to review. Once the investigation is complete, it may or may not bring up evidence that would affect the facts as we understand them from the initial investigation. I would ask you to review the entire investigation, including the review of the death of Scott Spivey and my office's determination of immunity under the Protection of Persons and Property Act, commonly referred to as the Stand Your Ground Act. All of this evidence should be covered in the corruption investigation. I request that you make any prosecutorial decisions and handle the prosecutions as to misconduct and include the death of Scott Spivey if you find the current investigation, including the alleged misconduct, changes the analysis of my office. I am sending a copy to SLED Chief Mark Keel so his office can make available to you anything you need to review the investigation. If you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Alan Wilson. AJ, tell me what your thoughts are when you hear this letter.
Did you put the warning up?
I did put the warning up. I did play at the beginning. Y'all,
that's
warning, AJ might have language. Okay, they have been notified.
I think he's full of shit. And I'm going to tell you why. So I posted screenshots the other day, and then I realized posting screenshots is not really going to explain it to people. Here's my thoughts. When the law is the law needs to be the law to everyone. I don't care if it's your mother. If she broke the same law that you're going to convict somebody else for, then she needs to be convicted too. It's not fair to say, oh, well, this person serves us dinner for free, so we're going to give him a slip under the rug while we're not going to give this person, and it's the same exact crime. It's just not right. If you're doing that and you're running for governor, ain't that what he's running for now? Governor?
He sure is.
Okay, well, make that make sense. If we can't trust you behind the scenes, how would anybody trust you to be the governor? I mean, basically, you're ruling everything. That don't make no sense to me.
And like I said, this is why if you have not seen the Scott Spivey case and you've not watched AJ and my previous live streams on this, you really need to go back and see all of the information. It's a lot for us to walk back in this particular live stream, but the gist is Weldon Boyd and his friend Kenneth Williams, well, started at Highway 57, and, you know, according to him, Scott ran them off the road and was driving erratically and pointing a weapon out the window. And so what did they do? Well, they decided to follow him. And we're talking about speeding, like high.
Here's the thing, Duchess.
I know we don't up to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know we don't want to walk it all the way back, but I think that if we're going to put that part out there, it's important to know Weldon Boyd left traffic, or what is it, Tractor Supply. At some point, Scott allegedly made his vehicle run off the road, but the aftermath of that is Weldon Boyd did not immediately call 911. He waited a good 5 minutes before calling him, and then he proceeded to pursue Scott by telling the 911 operator, he's trying to run from me, but I'm going to follow him. I think those are very important issues or statements that need to be clear.
That's exactly right.
Scott tried to, no matter what happened in the beginning before the 911 call was made, the bottom line is, even if Scott had one too many drinks, even if he was looking at his phone, texting, and accidentally swerved, it doesn't matter, because he disengaged the moment you said that he tried to run from you, period.
Weldon was also tailing him right on his bumper, which caused Scott to pump his brakes. And what does that mean? When somebody pumps your brakes, it's like, hey, get off my ass. You're following me too close. And then, of course, Weldon said, well, he was waving a gun. He was pointing a gun. He was this. He was that. Now, if you feel threatened for your life, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. If you're feeling threatened for your life, Put a 1 in the chat if you are going to follow this person for 9 miles and pursue them. Or if you're in fear for your life, you're going to call 911 and let police handle it. Put a 2 in the chat. Put a 1 if you're going to pursue somebody for 9 miles. And put a 2 if you're just going to call law enforcement and say, hey, this is the description of the vehicle. This is the tag number. This is what's happening. This is our location. And let law enforcement handle it. Because if Scott was bearing the burden of whatever happened on the road that day, Scott could still be alive. And I'm seeing a lot of 2s right now.
And there's a lot of aspects to this because there's other cases in South Carolina. For instance, he says, the 4 main elements, which we're going to also go over in the document of Alan Wilson's, because the 4 main elements are clear. And at no time was Scott ever trying to enter this man's vehicle, not his property, none of that. And there's other cases where people went to prison for the exact same thing. And now all of a sudden Weldon is just still walking around enjoying everyday life.
Oh, yeah, running his business right up the street from me, shooting guns on his property, living his best life. And Scott's not here anymore.
I didn't know Scott, and I don't know Weldon. I don't think you knew either of them either, did you, Joseph?
No, I just knew of Weldon because he owned the restaurant up the street from me that I've never patronized.
Looking aside or anything like that. It's just about what's right is right.
Exactly.
When somebody's trying to run from me now and you continue to chase, you become the aggressor. And that is one of the key elements that you cannot do to be able to claim stand your ground.
Exactly. If you're feeling in fear of your life, you're not going to drive after somebody. And Lindsay, 2 was for you would just call the cops and let the cops handle it. You wouldn't pursue him for 9 miles and then claim stand your ground and shoot this person.
In the state versus Slater. Yeah, exactly. And the state versus Slater in South Carolina, it was specifically upheld. The court held that one who is at fault in bringing on the difficulty cannot claim the right of self-defense unless he withdraws and announces his intent to do so. When he continued to follow him, he's bringing the difficulty to him because he's maneuvering himself to go by Scott's moves. When Scott turns, he turns.
Exactly. And Miss Holly, the dispatcher should have told him to back off. Absolutely. That's another problematic situation that AJ and I have discussed. The dispatcher was way too calm. And when Weldon called in saying and telling the dispatcher, I'm going to pursue him all the way. Scott was trying to leave. He was trying to get away from him. And Weldon and Kenneth Williams continued to pursue him. And I agree. The dispatcher not one single time on a 911 call told him to stop pursuing Scott Spivey, turn around and let law enforcement handle it. Not one time. So thank you for your comment, Miss Holly. I appreciate it.
And I was told they got up to speeds of almost 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's what I was told also.
And I'm sorry about the noise, you guys. That's my chinchilla. He's dreaming.
You're a little chinchilla.
He is
too so
much.
Sweet. So as this article continues on, it says, after this review, Wilson's office declined to pursue charges against Boyd, saying he acted in self-defense when he shot Spivey. And the office cited this act, which is the Stand Your Ground Act. And I don't understand how you can, follow someone for 9 miles and pursue them. And let's not get it twisted. Scott was not pursuing Weldon. Weldon was at all times behind Scott for 9 miles. To me, that's like a premeditated situation. He could have turned around at any given time and just let law enforcement handle it.
Actually, and you know what? That's the thing, Duchess, is I went back and I walked it with Google Maps. There's 19 different places that he could have turned off. Or let's just get to the fact and say Scott had to turn down Camp Swamp to get home. Weldon didn't. He should have continued straight because the blueberry farm is past Camp Swamp Road. There
That's
was
exactly
many
right.
of times that he could have turned off.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly right.
I mean, once
So
you have a license plate, you give that to the police. You could have videoed everything. You had it supposedly on video to that point. You had pictures. Give the license plate. They'll find him. They'll talk to him and figure out what happened.
and
But
the
that ain't what
sad
they did.
part is Spivey isn't here to tell his part.
Nope.
So all they have to go on is what Weldon said. And what cop is going to write down on a piece of paper for Weldon to act like a victim?
If you have to tell somebody to act like a victim, that means you see them as a suspect. Bottom line.
Exactly. And of course, in this article, it does state that Jennifer Spivey Foley, which is Scott's sister, she is the one that is pursuing justice for Scott's death. It states here that
Women I've ever known.
yes, she
has
is.
through it.
She is one of the kindest people. I've actually met her. I went to an Horry County Council meeting. Shay Doyle Boyd and I went there to support her when she went in front of the county council to plead with them to please help her. In this article, she states, our family has only ever asked for the truth and for all of the evidence to be evaluated in my brother's case for a fair and unbiased investigation. And there are clearly major pieces of evidence that were overlooked, whether on purpose or by error, and we feel that would have had a major impact on getting justice for my brother's death. And right here, it says that she says there's evidence that shows officers coaching Boyd and Williams at the scene. If that had not been brought out, that was totally looked over. No one would have ever known about that had someone not come forward if she had not gotten that information and her attorney put that information out. No one would have ever known about that. And that just screams corruption to me.
Well, I think he was setting his play up at the time, from the time that he got on the phone. Because another thing that some of you might not know is it was not even 20 minutes prior to this incident. Weldon received word that his baby's mother had ended it completely. She dropped off the vehicle that he bought for her, and she left that ring in a cup holder, and he was pissed.
Yes, and that happened right before this whole incident.
It happened while he was in Tractor Supply.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who knows anything about Weldon, and this is just my opinion, he's cocky, he's a little arrogant, and I think someone breaking up with him in that fashion where the money and the gifts and all of that didn't take precedence, I think set him off. Because he set up that call, and from the time he said, I'm a veteran, and I don't want the cops to shoot the wrong ones, like he was playing that out to the fullest.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So that, in a nutshell, is the information that just recently came out. This was just last week when this article was published, and we got a copy of that letter that Alan Wilson wrote. However, Alan Wilson and Barry Barnette, well, it turns out they go way back, y'all.
Oh, wait.
This isn't the first time that Alan Wilson has called on Barry Barnette to look at some other cases too. And
not just other cases, it's the exact same type of case. Person followed, person getting out of the vehicle, person getting shot, all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't have the same opinion on that one.
I don't know. It's a very tricky situation, personally. I mean, I can't make sense of it. I I just don't know. And also, I have a few memberships to give away. So I want to go ahead and send some of those out now while we have a lot of people here in the chat. So if you received a membership to the Dutch Bus, welcome, welcome, welcome. I didn't want to forget that because I haven't been live in a while. So I wanted to make sure that and I'll give out a few more here in just a little bit, but I didn't want to forget that. So there's another document that I want to bring up that I want to tell you guys about, because when I started looking at this, AJ called me and we were talking about this case. And we were talking about Barry Barnette, and I started looking into some information about Barry Barnette and Alan Wilson. And you sent me this PDF. Do you want me to go ahead and bring that up? Because I think it is interesting. Hey,
I
Mercedes
think it
girl.
definitely needs to be brought up. And
Okay.
again, this is not an attempt. Nobody is saying that Barry is not going to be fair. That's not what we're saying at all. I just want the information out there because, like I said, the law is the law is the law, and it should be the law for everybody.
Hands down, I agree. If I have somebody that is running for governor in my state and I see that he is not carrying out justice for victims, especially in the county where I live, for people that I consider my friends, my family, people that I care about, how can I think he's going to responsibly be an upstanding governor of my state? It's a no for me. You know what I'm saying?
You can be responsible for anything. And I don't think people understand that as the AG attorney, you can go and you can use Google Dorks, which we'll explain later, and you can find all kinds of weigh-ins that he has done on cases through different states, through Tennessee, through Mississippi, through all of them. So it doesn't just keep it there. It's the whole South.
But I've been educated. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's
Google Dork. She was like, "What is that?"
I said, "Oh my gosh, am I going down another rabbit hole?" But
It's just a way to do specific searches. Like it's certain words that you place together instead of just going to Google and saying, "Oh, search Alan Wilson." I can go to Google and use a Google Dork that will specifically only bring up any documents that have his name and the name like Stand Your Ground or something like that. So you're
Right.
able to pinpoint and find a lot more information.
Right. Crazy Crystal, thank you for being here. Duchess, there has been a huge issue with dispatchers suggesting abandoning chases when there is no good outcome to be had and sketchy LE involving SLED. I'm in Northern Lawrence County. Thank you for being here, Crystal. And I can't disagree with you. And it's kind of scary, don't you think? I don't even have an explanation for that because to me, I feel like the dispatcher here in Horry County should, right off the cuff, should have said, "Hey, you need to stop pursuing and let law enforcement handle it." So, and that's not what happened at all. Now I'm going to share my screen because this particular document that AJ sent me, I think it's pretty interesting. This is another particular case in South Carolina. And since we've got some South Carolina people in here, put a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with the road rage case involving Adam Keith Lunsford out of Spartanburg, South Carolina.
And let me just say, I am shocked at how much road rage you guys have. There's other cases, even just around in the state and around. I thought California was bad, but my goodness.
Yeah, we've had quite a few cases. There was another case that happened with Travis Draper. That was another road rage case. And that person didn't even, they got into it and that person went by and shot Travis Draper and then left the scene and didn't call law enforcement. Nothing.
Oh,
And it was not good at all. And I'm sure Crazy Crystal probably knows, but this case actually, I think, went back to 2016 out of Spartanburg County, South Carolina. And this involved Adam Keith Lunsford. And there is a little backstory, I think. And the funny thing is when I was looking into this, because I wanted to kind of get as much information about this case as I could, to kind of be able to walk it back for you guys. And you know what's interesting is there is not a lot of information on the internet about this guy at all. But at the time, 9 years ago, this 27-year-old man, Adam Lunsford, was charged with attempted murder after a road rage shooting in Spartanburg. He got charged at the time with attempted murder and aggravated assault and connected with the shooting. And that happened around 7:30 p.m. on September the 22nd of, I think that was 2016, on Lucerne Drive. And officers say that the drivers were following each other in a road rage incident where both drivers were arguing and making gestures toward each other. And they say that a 33-year-old victim stepped out of his car and he was shot several times while standing outside of his car. And of course, Adam Lunsford was detained at the scene by an off-duty deputy with the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office. And strange enough, there's really not a whole lot that you can actually find about this case online. A lot of that stuff has actually been blocked, which I find to be pretty strange that you can't really.
I across this just by using the Google Docs. I couldn't really find too much after this either. But it's what I did want to ask you real fast, Duchess. In September, is it dark there at 7:30 at night?
No, not in September.
No. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
No, it's not. No, it's still it's just starting to get dark. After 8 o'clock is when the sun really starts to go down and it starts to get dark here.
Okay.
So, and then of course, as the end of September progresses into the first part of October, you're working with less and less daylight.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because I think after you read this document, some are going to be like, okay, well, one person did and one person didn't have, but that's not the reason that's not what makes the document important, because that's not even what's listed on the appeal.
Yeah, because honestly, we're in the second week or so, maybe going into the third week of October, and I would say that it's just now starting to get dark around 7:30. Just in the last week or two.
Okay.
Like just about now. Anybody else that's here in South Carolina, what do y'all think? Crazy Crystal, Sheriff Chuck Wright, don't get me started. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're going to have to talk about, because that whole situation is another mess. And of course, Barry Barnett was involved in the whole Sheriff Wright situation too. So, but on this particular document that we have pulled up, this is from Justia Law. And this is where the court actually made a decision in Adam Keith Lunsford's case, because Adam Keith Lunsford went before the court and pled not guilty and wanted to have immunity based on the stand your ground law. Okay. And the court ruled that he was going to get immunity. They gave this guy immunity. And then what happened is it went to the AG, and they decided to take this case back into the Court of Appeals. Okay. And this is that document in the South Carolina in the Court of Appeals, the state appellate versus Adam Keith Lunsford, the respondent. And this is an appeal from Spartanburg County J. Mark Hayes, the Second Circuit Court judge. This was filed. It was heard October 15th of 2020. It was filed June 9th of 2021. This has been reversed and remanded. And of course, you can see right here, let me make it big for you. We've got Attorney General Alan McCrory Wilson. We've got Assistant Attorney General Mark Reynolds Farthing, both of Columbia. and we have Solicitor Barry Joe Barnett of Spartanburg, all for the appellate right here.
Now let's explain what that means. This is not normally an appeal is filed by somebody who is at the losing end of a case. That's normally how appeals work. That's not how this happened. This happened because they didn't like the fact that the trial court granted Mr. Lunsford immunity. So they filed an appeal on behalf of the state to make the trial court turn that around.
Yeah, and now we have a case where the Attorney General is saying that they should give Weldon Boyd immunity.
But they didn't want to give this guy immunity. This immunity.
It doesn't. See how this doesn't make any sense, y'all? We have the same set of circumstances. Because anytime that you have a situation where you end up unaliving somebody in a road rage incident, nobody should be getting immunity. I mean, you've taken someone's life.
And that's just it, though. The exact same reasoning that he uses is what blows my mind, because he specifically says that the guy shouldn't get immunity because he could have A, rolled up his windows, B, he was not blocked in. He had the power to move his car and leave. And that one right there is what blows my mind. So you want him to not get immunity because he had the power to leave because his car wasn't blocked. But you want Weldon to get immunity. And he could have not even followed, much less he wasn't blocked.
Yeah, see how that doesn't add up, guys? It doesn't add up. Like, Weldon could have chosen not to even follow Scott Spivey, and none of this would have ever happened. But they're still claiming that he has a stand your ground law after following for. Tell me this, put a 1 in chat if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
What's good for, what's it called? Somebody help me with that one. What's good
for the goose is good for the gander?
That one right there.
Yeah. So per this curium, which is where they get together and they give their reasons for why they're appealing. So it basically says the state appealed the trial court's order granting Lunsford's request for immunity on his charges for attempted murder, assault, and battery of a high and aggravated nature, which is abbreviated ABHAN, and pointing or presenting a firearm. The state argues the trial court erred in ruling Lunsford was entitled to immunity from prosecution under the Protection of Persons and Property Act because he acted unlawfully by threateningly brandishing a firearm at Daniel Hull, the victim, during the course of the incident. He was not actually under attack at the time he shot the victim, and he could not validly raise a claim of self-defense. So, number 1, we reverse and remand the trial court ruling that Lunsford was entitled to immunity from prosecution from pointing and presenting the firearm under the act. The only finding made by the trial court that Lunsford reasonably believed he must brandish his weapon to prevent death or great bodily injury to himself or others occurred when the victim approached Lunsford's vehicle after the vehicles were stopped in the road. And then, of course, it gives a South Carolina code, which is 16-11-440C. And that is where a person who is not engaged in an unlawful activity and who is attacked in another place where he has a right to be, including but not limited to his place of business, has no duty to retreat and has the right to stand his ground and meet force with force, including deadly force, if he reasonably believes it is necessary to prevent death or great bodily injury to himself or another person to prevent the commission of a violent crime, as defined in Section 16-1-60. And Lunsford indictment for his charge for pointing and presenting a firearm stated it was for pointing or presenting a firearm at the victim while driving. Emphasis added, while driving. Therefore, there was no finding by the court that the elements of Section 16-11-440 were met at the time Lunsford was driving his vehicle. And then they also reversed and remanded this ruling, arguing that the trial court erred in finding Lunsford was not at fault for bringing on the difficulty because he was engaged in an unlawful activity at the time of the incident.
That's another thing.
Mhm.
So they're claiming that the unlawful activity that he was engaged in was the fact that he showed a weapon. However, that is not under South Carolina law. The brandishing law actually is a split law because it actually says that you can, if it's a mirror of self-defense, such as how Scott held his out the window but pointed it in the air, saying basically back off, this is not going to end well. There's actually parts of the law that are stated in the self-defense law for brandishing a firearm. So again, in this case, here we go with Alan veering off and giving a completely
That
different
Scott
opinion.
actually pointed directly at him.
No, there was never said Scott pointed it at him.
No, but Weldon said that.
Right. But I'm saying in the pictures that was shown.
Yeah, but in the pictures, there was never any proof or evidence of that. It's
yeah,
basically
his picture was not even
Weldon's word against
correct.
no evidence. Yeah.
But at the time that Weldon is saying this happened, it would have been Scott in front of him. So you're chasing this man. So that would have still been an act of back up and leave me the hell alone.
He even told the 911 officer, I mean, they have it recorded where he said, I'm going to continue to pursue him. And, you know, I mean, he tells the 911 operator this, and they did not tell him to stop.
Yeah,
I mean, this whole thing is so bizarre to me, but it goes on to say that the defendant actually believed he was in imminent danger of losing his life or sustaining this bodily injury, that he was in imminent danger. And if the defense is based on the defendant's actual belief of imminent danger, a reasonable, prudent man of ordinary firmness and courage would have entertained the same belief, and that the defendant had no other probable means of avoiding the danger of losing his own life or sustaining serious bodily injury than to act as he did in this particular incident.
And that's where we're going to stop right there. And let me point this out because this is going to be the most important point of all. Read that last part again for me, Duchess.
The last sentence says, the defendant had no other probable means of avoiding the danger of losing his own life or sustaining serious bodily injury than to act as he did in this particular instance.
So wait, so let me make sure I'm because this is what got me on this document. So you're saying that this man involved in this document should not get immunity because he didn't meet the elements, and one of the elements being he had no other way of avoiding the danger. Well, Weldon Boyd had plenty of ways to avoid the danger.
Yeah, he didn't have to pursue Scott Spivey, and yet here we are. But he's getting immunity? I can't make that make sense. He could have avoided this. See how these two things, these two cases don't add up? I'm just dumbfounded when I read this reversal. You know, and they're giving you.
Yeah, it was reversed, and now the internet's been wiped of everything. You can't, even though we know it was reversed, you're not going to see the charges, you're not going to see the court trial, you're not going to see any of that.
You cannot pull any of that up.
It's like it went away.
You can pull it up to see where he was originally charged, but then basically, and look, they're given all these different cases that support this: State versus Glenn, State versus Wiggins, State versus Manning, State versus Douglas. So This is why they remand the case for a new immunity hearing, and that the trial court should analyze all the elements for self-defense and determine brandishing of his weapon was proximately related to the shooting, etc. Well, let me show you guys something that's really interesting. Given all of this Court of Appeals and how they overturned his immunity in order for him to be set up to go back to trial, which, by the way, you cannot find the trial because, well, it's been removed from the internet. But I have a little something that I do want to show you. Let me get back over here so I can bring this up. Here is State versus Adam Keith Lunsford. Incident, 2018 road rage. I said 2016. I apologize. 2018 road rage in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He was originally charged with attempted murder, assault, and battery of a high and aggravated nature, pointing and presenting a firearm. The immunity claim, we discussed that, how he asserting he acted under self-defense, and the trial court granted his immunity request. However, the appeal happened in 2021 in the South Carolina Court of Appeals. They reversed that trial court's order, sending the case back for trial. The appellate court found that Lunsford could not claim immunity because he was engaged in an unlawful activity, the brandishing of the firearm. And then the current status, information from the 2021 appeals court ruling did not indicate a murder conviction. And no further public records have been found regarding a road rage murder conviction for Adam Lunsford in South Carolina. That's right.
It's insane. It's insane.
I invite you to try to find it yourself. Yeah.
The whole thing is weird.
Mm-hmm. So, when I see this, I think, okay, Alan Wilson has already declared that he thinks Weldon Boyd deserves immunity. That's what his office states. That doesn't make it so because there is still a civil lawsuit. And by the way, that has not gone back to court yet. So I don't have any updated information to give you guys on that. But as soon as I get any information on that, I will definitely give you guys an update. We'll go live. I'll give you any updates that I can about that. But even given that, just because Alan Wilson says that's his findings doesn't mean that's going to be the outcome. But I feel like Alan Wilson knows he's got to do something because he's getting a lot of blowback. I'm sure there's people that's writing his office, calling his office, demanding that something be done, which is good. But he reaches out to this guy. I'm hoping that Mr. Barnette is going to consider all of these factors and look at all of the evidence that Alan Wilson clearly overlooked, with Paul Vescovi writing, hey, act like a victim, the fact that he had a very close friendship with, Brandon Strickland with the Horry County PD and called him to the scene. He should have never been there.
Okay, it looks, so as we've been talking, I have been using, y'all, I'm telling y'all, we're going to do a whole live that's just on Google Dorks because it is,
she's going to educate us, y'all.
swear to
Google
gosh,
Dorks.
like Google Dorks, it is amazing. So it actually tells the whole, I just got the document where it tells the whole story, and the court upheld the immunity and Alan Wilson filed again.
Wait a minute. After he already filed one time,
Yep.
they still upheld the immunity and he filed again?
He filed again.
Okay, y'all, explain this to me. Now he's wanting to claim immunity for Weldon. What am I missing here?
And it specifically, this is interesting. The defendant must demonstrate the elements of self-defense, save the duty to retreat by preponderance of the evidence in order to establish the entitlement to grant immunity per section pursuant to 16-11-440. And it says there's no requirement that the defendant prove that he believed he was in imminent danger of losing his life or sustaining bodily injury. And I agree with that. I think that's something that's going to be between his mind and whoever. But it also states, again, that he could have rolled up his windows. He could have moved his car. There was no permanent blocking. And it says he could have locked his doors. So why is he fighting so hard to get this guy in jail?
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. How is locking your doors going to prevent somebody from shooting you? I mean, I'm just asking a question because let's recap the fact that how many shots did Weldon and Kenneth Williams fire through their front windshield at
They
Scott?
unloaded 2.5 clips.
2.5 clips were fired through their windshield, guys. They never got out of their vehicle.
Nope.
Scott got out and just basically was like, stop following me. And they unloaded 2.5 clips on him.
Now, Scott did have a gun in his hand. But again, that takes us back to Weldon should have. And here, let me just explain something. This is how I know that Weldon Boyd absolutely, without a doubt, knew he was in the wrong. Because if you go back and you listen to the recorded phone conversation between him and what's the one that resigned?
Brandon Strickland.
Yeah, that guy. If you listen to the phone conversation, he tells Brandon, we stopped because I'm pulling couches and I needed to fix the couches on the trailer, and Scott ambushed us. That is absolutely not what happened. And we know this because of the 911 call that took place before this call to Brandon Strickland. So why did you feel the need to lie to your supposed friend about how you ended up where you were if you didn't think you had done anything wrong?
I'll tell you why. And this is just, in my opinion, I think it's because he knew that day that something was going to happen. He already knew in his mind, like this had set him off, and he was going to pursue it regardless.
And the thing is you're listening to the 911 calls way before the shot. I mean, I think he was on the phone a good 30 minutes, wasn't it, with 911? And half of that was way before the first shot ever happened. And you never hear a shot coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Scott was less than 20 feet away from the truck. If he got out and shot, there should be a bullet hole. There was not one single bullet hole in Weldon's truck, just in the window where the bullets were going out from him firing. So he wasn't trying to fix no couches, and he didn't get ambushed.
Yeah, there's lots of filler in the story and things that don't make sense. You know what I mean? And I don't like that. And I think he knew what his intention was going to be. And then he had to walk it back to make it fit his narrative. Because he didn't want to be guilty. Nonsense. She says, is there anything not fishy in this case? Corruption and cover-up. I know, Crazy Crystal. We have a lot of that here, unfortunately. And yeah, the good old boy system, it still definitely exists. And I'm sure if you are anywhere in South Carolina, you are familiar with what I mean when I say that. If, it's kind of like, and I tell you what, let me pull this up real quick while we're talking. There was another investigation that Barnette was involved in, and it was called Probegate. How many of y'all have heard of Probegate here in South Carolina?
I thought it was Wilson.
Well,
Barnette?
here's the thing about that. Oh my God, here we go. See this once again, and I'm gonna share my screen because I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, they're tied on that document too.
Look at this article right here from 2021.
I swear. Are you kidding me, Dutch?
I mean, is there not other prosecutors in the state of South Carolina? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, and I want to know too. And actually, here's what I think. I think that you should take the solicitors' names, put them in a hat, and let the family draw the name to review the case.
Yeah, don't just pick
I know
your
that
best
sounds
friend
childish and kiddish, but I think that's like one of the only ways this is going to work. Because you just showed me another reason why not to trust this dude.
Again, South Carolina Attorney General sends remaining Probegate cases to upstate solicitor Barry Barnette as the new special prosecutor. Tell me that, listen, and the thing about Probegate is this. It has to do with people in high offices having money. Like, for instance, one of the people named here, Richard Quinn, the former godfather of what was once the state's largest, most influential Republican political machine. You know, you have people that have money in high-ranking offices, and it's basically like this apex of power. It's the heart of a notorious pay-to-play scandal at the South Carolina State House. Okay? And it's how much money do you have? Who do you know? Who can you own? Do you have something on these people? Can I buy your vote? Can I buy you to do the dirty work for me? And that's basically what Probegate was all about. They have these shady corporate integrity agreements, and several of these political defendants like that are associated with this scandal, like Tracy Edge, John Corson, Jim Harrison, David Pascoe, Jimmy Merrill. There's a whole handful of these people, and they called it Probegate. And I mean, it's crazy. Like, they just start going after all these people because when people don't get what they want, then they start raising a ruckus. And so all of these lawmakers right here in this article in Probegate received these probationary sentences after they agreed to resign their offices. But here's something that's really interesting about this particular thing is that Alan Wilson was supposed to make a decision about these federal funds. Okay? And you know what happened? He didn't do it in a timely fashion. And so it ended up losing, I guess the time ran out. You know, it expired.
That's how we know he did it on purpose, because he knew damn well that him putting it off, that was going to be their replay. That was how they were going to respond. Well, it's too late now. He knew what he was doing.
Exactly.
And another thing about Barry Barnette, let's not forget, if you really go and do some digging, you're going to find out he was so pro keeping gun people in jail. What did he end up doing, Duchess?
Let me find this other article before we jump to that, because I do want to tell y'all about, let me see if I can get it over here. Let's see, where Alan Wilson, Alan Wilson, because y'all will want to see this before we jump to the next thing. State House. Because it went before a grand jury. Okay, this whole Probegate. Oh, looky here. Here we go. Let me share my screen. Hold, please. Lord have mercy. All right. Y'all look at this. Look, look, it's Alan Wilson again. AG Alan Wilson impeded the state house corruption probe. A grand jury finds. This was in 2018. It says that whether he intended to or not, come on, y'all. According to a state grand jury report released Tuesday after a 2-year investigation, Wilson responded that this report is repackaged and recycled garbage and a political attack before the election. But Wilson's inaction after former House Speaker Bobby Harrell pleaded guilty in 2014, he named 2 other high-profile lawmakers in the process, cost investigators 13 months, and meant the statute of limitations on potential federal crimes like money laundering ran out, the grand jurors said in a report drafted by solicitor David Pascoe. The report notes Wilson's close relationship with political consultant Richard Quinn, whom he once likened to a father. This investigation focused on Quinn's consulting business, his clients, whether he acted like a lobbyist without registering. And the report also notes that Wilson testified voluntarily before the grand jury, saying the delays happened as he tried to make sure the investigation proceeded legally. Sir, you went for 13 months and didn't do anything. And then the time ran out. The statute of limitations was up, and the people that you could have got for laundering money in high political offices did not get charged. Do you see why we have concerns about these cases? Is because you have situations like this, and then you know what they do? He goes, oh, this is just repackaged and recycled garbage, y'all. Don't listen to these people. You know why? Because to me, that is sending me the signal that these people have their money. They know people. They need these people's money. You know what I'm saying? If you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. You know, and now we have Alan Wilson wanting to dig his claws in and say, oh, but Weldon Boyd is innocent, but I'm going to pass it off to my friend Barry Barnette, and he's going to do an investigation. And I'm just saying, Barry Barnette, you had better hope that you review every ounce of evidence, because people are going to be beating your door down, sir, if you come to the same conclusion as Alan Wilson, because we will not forget. I know too much information. Now, AJ, knowing that Alan Wilson impeded this investigation and did not bring all of these people that are his people he saw like a father on these charges because they expired and went over the statute of limitations. Then we also had another article, and that was, let's see if I can pull that one up. That is where I believe that was, let me go over here and look it up.
Barry Barnette better not come to the same conclusion, because we already know he's got his own skeletons.
Court scolds the state attorney. And a solicitor. This is on the SLED report. Let's see if I can get it to come up. I'm hoping I can read it. Let's see. Yes, this is the one. I know the lack of integrity is astounding, Crazy Crystal. This is why true crime stresses me out. Because when you look at all of the people that are playing these games with these people's lives, like, are the victims really coming first? Like, this is why I have to ask myself these questions. Like, these cases are close to me because they're in my state. These cases are in my town. And like, here's another example, 2024. Court scolds state attorney, says Spartanburg solicitor misinterpreted a SLED report. Okay, so if we jump down here, now the eye is back on Barry Barnette, the other guy that's going to be looking at Scott Spivey's case. In 2024, the South Carolina Court of Appeals admonished officials and gave an inmate a new parole hearing after an upstate solicitor, who is Barry Barnette, spent years falsely accusing him of making death threats. Seventh Circuit solicitor Barry Barnette misinterpreted a SLED investigation when he sent letters to the state paroles agency falsely accusing the inmate of making death threats, the court ruled on June 12th of 2024. The judge also scolded the state paroles agency general counsel, Matthew Buchanan, for having a lack of awareness of the contents of the SLED report when the inmate's attorney tried to explain it to him. Neither Barnett's office, which prosecutes cases in Spartanburg and Cherokee counties, nor the Department of Probation, Parole, and Pardon Services responded to requests for comments. But for years, Barry Barnette sent letters to the state paroles agency falsely accusing inmate Larry Blackwell of threatening to kill him and his wife, claiming multiple inmates had reported it. But as the SLED report showed, Barnett's letters to the parole agency weren't an accurate reflection of the alleged threats attributed to Blackwell, which were originally sourced from an inmate named Alan Yates, who used a fake name to make a series of unproven allegations. Barnett's notes led to a legal challenge from Blackwell, who argued that his due process rights were violated by the parole board's consideration of false information during his hearing in April of 2021. And the court ruled that because Blackwell's attorney, John Osment, had produced the SLED investigation and refuted Barnett's letter during the parole hearing, Blackwell was not prejudiced by Yates' allegations or Solicitor Barnett's misinterpretation. Y'all, we're talking about, like, Barnette said that in the letter right here, it says that Yates used the fake name and made threats that he was going to get Barry Barnett's wife drunk, have sex with her on camera, and send him the film. Yes. And so Barnett begins sending letters.
That ever happened. And let me be clear.
It never happened.
Yeah, this isn't
It never happened.
for an inmate. I want to make that clear. But it damn sure is about following the law. So you gonna make up some ruse bullshit on somebody? Like, I don't understand that. So, and people are supposed to trust you?
Make it make sense, y'all. These are the people that are going over these cases, and you want me to sit here and believe that they are going to be non-prejudiced, look at all of the evidence, and make a conclusion that is going to be an accurate assessment that's going to get justice for these families. Do y'all see why this has got me messed up? You can't make this up. I mean, I promise you right here, this is this article right here, and I think I linked it in my description of my video. You can find all the links for all of this, and if there's any links that I pulled up that you can't take a look at any of these documents, if you decide you want to go back later and look at some of these documents, the links are in the description of this video. You can go read it for yourself.
And I still got a bunch of Google Dorks to go through.
So this guy is sitting in jail and cannot get parole because you have a high-ranking solicitor writing letters that aren't even factual, given a false account of a crime put in a file by the parole agency that wasn't even factual. Chico? Where's Chico? I need to see Chico. Let me get over here. Chico, tell me that this is crazy. Michelle, where are you at? I know, Elizabeth, it's crazy.
I
So
really
I'm just
just
telling
want
you,
Barnett to know that there are eyes on him, definitely, and he needs to do the right thing.
like, these are things that I can't unsee when I look at these cases. And I want these families to be able to get a fair and just trial. Because when I look at the evidence and it doesn't make sense to a layperson like me, I mean, we're just using common sense here. And we're talking about a police department that hid relationships, that did not look at all of the evidence. Like Paul Vescovi was never going to lose his job because no one went through the body cam footage and saw him right. I mean, there is body cam footage, y'all, of him writing it down on a piece of paper, act like a victim, and then showed it to Weldon. And then Weldon, started in his drama. Like, y'all, there is actual body cam footage that proves that. What good and well Alan Wilson saw that, right? Tell me I'm not crazy. Hey, Carl. And it's no wonder that Scott's family, Tyler Dole's family, there's so many cases going on in South Carolina, and people feel like they aren't getting a fair shake, which is why I say to people, if you come to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to go on vacation, don't you come down here getting your ass in trouble, because if people are not going to do right by their own tax-paying citizens, what makes you think if you go missing or something happens to you that they're going to do you justice when you ain't even from here? You got to keep your head on a swivel down in these parts, honey. I can't make it make sense, okay? Chico,
There ain't been nothing right about Memphis since the old sheriff killed himself. Memphis is all the way corrupt.
There's so much going on out there in Memphis. I mean, it's a lot.
I used to live in Fraser. I'm telling you, everything in Memphis is corrupt.
Well, I know Chico knows all about it. She's got a channel. If y'all aren't subbed up to Chico, please make sure you go over there and sub up to Chico, because she talks about some pretty heavy subjects, and a lot of it is about serious corruption, and these are difficult topics to talk about. But I just am hoping, I'm trying to give Alan Wilson and Barry Barnette a fair shake that they are going to do Scott's case justice. But then when I go back and I look at all of these other cases that Alan has handed over to Barry Barnette, and then I see other things that Alan Wilson has been involved in the past, things that Barry Barnette has been caught up in the past, it makes me just, I just second guess. Chico says, hey, Bay Area. Oh, Lord. Crazy Crystal, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. It's wild. It's hard to really know what to make of this. And I want nothing more than for victims to get a fair trial.
Well, let's just think about this one part. Put everything else out of your mind. There's 4 elements that must be proven to have been there for it to be self-defense. One of those is you must believe that you were in imminent fear of losing your life. A person that is in fear of losing their life is not going to chase the threat that can cost them their life. You might not turn around and run, but you're not going to chase it.
Yeah. I agree. Now, I do encourage you, if you want to learn more about the Scott Spivey shooting, please do go over and watch our live streams. There is a lot of information out there. And it's really important to look at everything that is happening in this case, because it's a lot. And I did see that Dr. Todd Grande actually reviewed this case too, which I thought was very interesting. I haven't had a chance to look at that yet, but um, I like to hear his spin on how he sees these cases. And I noticed that the name of his video, let me go over here and see if I can pull up the name of the video. It's High Ranking Cover Up Cop Celebrates Road Rage Fatality Was Not Black. That is the name. That is the name of his video from Dr. Todd Grande when he's talking about the Scott Spivey case. That, to me, made me angry because this just shows you where's Chico. I swear. Oh my gosh. Yeah, apparently the cop says, I'm glad it's a white male. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, that's horrible. That's horrible to even say that. There's so many things wrong with this situation. I know nonsense. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I really want to watch what Dr. Todd Grande has to say about it. Because I haven't seen it yet. And then other things happened. Real life happened that I didn't get a chance to watch it. But I think listen to what he has to say because, yeah, I think it was Strickland that said that, Scarlett. Do you know, AJ? No, it's not politically correct, Elizabeth. In fact, it's these people make
I
me
don't.
angry.
Was it Strickland though, Duchess?
Let's see who and all do we have out there? Strickland's, Vescovi. There was another guy that was out there. Wasn't there three of them? Strickland, Vescovi.
There's another one that came to light after all of that, but I don't think he lost it. There was two that got reprimanded, but they didn't. I don't think they released their names, and that they told us that the same when Vescovi got in trouble. I guess it was Strickland. All of them are crooked. That's all I know. I mean, why do you even have to write act like a victim? Is that because you seen him as a suspect? A victim is not going to have to be told to act like a victim.
Well, his video is not that long, but I think it would be really interesting to hear what he has to say. I may not play it, but I could always play the I could always just play, the audio from his video just to hear what he has to say. I think it might be interesting to hear him just walk it back. And then we could stop intermittently and give our comments on it. And thank you for being here, Scarlett. Hey, Barbara. Yes, a lot of good old boy behavior for sure. Let's see if I can get over here. I'm going to pull it up on my phone. If one of the mods can go look for Dr. Todd Grande's link to his channel and drop it for me, I would really appreciate it. And I will share this video link if you guys want to go over there and watch it in totality, because I think it's pretty interesting. I'm going to drop it right now. This is the link to it right here.
Case of Scott Spivey and Weldon Boyd. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Scott Ryan Spivey was born on March 5, 1990, in Raleigh, North Carolina. In 2013, he earned a bachelor's degree in agriculture business management. In June 2022, when Scott was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, he was in a terrible collision which involved him flipping his pickup truck 3 times. After this, he decided to move to North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and live in a trailer on land his parents owned on Camp Swamp Road. To make a living, he worked as an insurance adjuster. In the summer of 2023, he broke up with a love interest and was devastated by this loss.
Callie, thank you for being a member for 2 months. I appreciate that. Thanks for supporting the channel.
Also living in North Myrtle Beach at this time was a man named Weldon Boyd. He was a military veteran who owned a restaurant. Just like Scott, Weldon had a recent breakup. His fiancée, who was 7 months pregnant, returned a 5-carat diamond engagement ring to him. Anticipating a custody battle with her, Weldon used an app on his phone, which recorded his phone calls. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On September 9, 2023, 33-year-old Scott Spivey drank for several hours at a bar called Boardwalk Billy's in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
And that bar is about 1.5 miles from my house. I can actually walk to that place where he was at.
Consumed 7 beers, 3 shots of Fireball cinnamon whiskey, and a cheeseburger. He left the bar at 5:30 p.m., driving his black 2021 Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck. Scott was in the possession of a pistol chambered in .45 ACP. At the same time, Weldon Boyd was in his white 2022 Dodge Ram pickup truck hooked to a trailer which contained a couch. In the passenger seat was his best friend, Kenneth Williams, who went by the name Bradley. Both Weldon and Bradley were carrying pistols chambered in 9mm Luger. The men had just pulled out of a parking lot for a Tractor Supply store. At 5:48 p.m., some type of disagreement developed between Scott and Weldon near the intersection of Highway 9 and Highway 57. Weldon would later say that Scott swerved near his vehicle and waved a gun. Scott then pulled ahead of Weldon and slammed on the brakes. Weldon swerved to avoid slamming into Scott and ended up in a ditch in the median. He pulled out of the ditch and pursued Scott. About 5 miles into this chase, at 5:54 p.m., Weldon Boyd called 911. He told the operator, quote, "Hey, I've got a guy pointing a gun at me driving. We are armed as well. He keeps throwing the gun in our faces, acting like he's about to shoot us. If he keeps this up..."
You hear that? If he doesn't stop throwing his gun up, I'm going to shoot him. Remember that, AJ? Golly.
I do. And I was thinking to myself just last night, what if they say, okay, Scott brandishing a weapon, but then I got to reading deeper into the law, and what Scott was doing was not considered brandishing a weapon. He did not point it at him. There's no evidence that he ever pointed it at him. And to be honest, the only other person that even called in before the shooting was one. So all of this, oh, he was protecting other people. No, the hell he wasn't. Because nobody called this in except for one female. One.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even going to get started on her. I'm going to leave her out of this for now. But let's just say, I mean, you had how many cars around and nobody else felt threatened. Nobody else called 911. So he wasn't randomly just pointing his gun at people on some rampage. That's not what happened.
I think he was just trying to get home.
I think he was showing his gun with his finger off the trigger, pointed in the air like, hey, this is not going to end well. Leave me the fuck alone. That's what I think.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
We are armed as well. He keeps throwing the gun in our faces, acting like he's about to shoot us. If he keeps this up, I'm going to shoot him, unquote. He informed the operator that he was on Highway 9, headed toward the town of Loris, and that the other vehicle was running from him. Weldon stayed on the phone with the operator and pursued Scott all the way to Camp Swamp Road. Again, this is the road that Scott lived on. When Scott turned on this road, Weldon said, quote, "He's stopping. Hey, we're about to have a blanking shootout, dude," unquote. Scott stopped his Silverado and Weldon stopped his Ram behind him. Scott exited his vehicle holding his pistol and said something like, "Do not follow me anymore." At 6:04 p.m., both Weldon and Bradley fired multiple shots at Scott. 40 rounds were fired between them. Bullet holes could be seen in the windshield of Weldon's Dodge Ram. Evidently, the men fired.
Now, I want to show you guys this. Let me turn on my camera, because I have this on my phone. But I don't have it on here. But can you guys see the bullet holes in the windshield? They fired 40 rounds, y'all. 40 rounds. That is crazy. Just to give you an idea.
Right through the windshield. Scott jumped back in his truck and fired several times before slumping over the center console. Weldon told the operator, "Dude, please come help us, man." Weldon also made other statements, including, "I don't know if he's shot or not. He shot blanking first. Why the blank would he do that? And as soon as he shot, I shot back." The first officer arrived on scene at 6:10 p.m. and discovered Scott's body slumped over the center console of his Silverado. A detective named Alan Jones was assigned to conduct the investigation into Scott's death. Witnesses had observed Scott driving erratically and pointing a pistol at individuals in another vehicle. Someone had captured at least one image of Scott holding a gun out of his window. At the scene of the shooting, witnesses did not know who shot first, but they did see Scott outside his vehicle holding a pistol. An autopsy revealed that the fatal shot struck Scott in his back. It only took the detective, Alan, a few hours to conclude that the...
That's, okay, so let me give y'all this image. You're in a vehicle, a truck. We know that the trucks in South Carolina, for some reason, all y'all like to put them like up high, or they come up high or whatever, but it's high. Now think about that little thing. I'm only 4'11". I don't know if most of you have to do it, but there's a little bar-like thing. You know what I'm talking about? It's like right on the edge by the door that you can turn around and then you put your arm on it and you lift yourself up into the truck. Scott's in front.
I call that the old shit handle.
That's a good, best way to describe it. So Scott is facing Weldon. His truck is in front. He's facing Weldon. It says the back, but if you really read the report, it's not only in the back, meaning he had to have been turned around. There's question about the right arm being lifted as if he was trying to grab that bar and pull himself up in the truck. So how the hell did he shoot first? The bullet that killed him is in the back, no matter how you look at it. You're not self-defensing if you're shooting somebody in the back.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, let's continue.
All right, I didn't mean to interrupt. Okay, go ahead.
It was self-defense. But of course, the official report would take longer to generate. Allen indicated that Scott's behavior led to his death, namely driving erratically and pointing a gun at people. On April 18, 2024, the Attorney General's office told Scott's family that no charges would be filed against Weldon or Bradley. They concluded that Scott brandished a firearm and Weldon and Bradley had the right to be on Camp Swamp Road. This was a case of self-defense. On June 3, 2024, Scott's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Weldon and Bradley. The police released information to Scott's family, who learned that Weldon had recorded his phone calls. As I mentioned, he did this because he was anticipating a custody dispute with his pregnant ex-fiancée. These recorded calls were pretty interesting and have caused some people to take a second look at this case. Here are a few examples of what was captured on these recordings. Right after the shooting, Bradley could be heard telling Weldon, Blank, blanket, Weldon. Why couldn't we blanking leave him alone? Weldon then told Bradley not to worry and reassured him that he knew people that could help them out.
Ooh. Busted. Even his best friend said, why couldn't we just have left him alone? Don't worry, I know people who can help us out.
That's recorded. That is recorded. Left
It
him alone.
sure-
What the hell do you mean left him alone?
Boom. I'm telling y'all, make it make sense. All right, let's
To
continue.
leave somebody alone means you had to be bothering them in the first place, right?
Like I said, Weldon and Kenneth could have turned around at any time. But they didn't. He didn't have to pursue him. He could have went on about his way, turned around, called law enforcement, reported what was going on. Scott lived on Camp Swamp Road near his parents. He probably didn't want Weldon coming to where his parents lived.
I have always said that anybody that is in any type of that leaves their house at any point in time in life should know the number one rule is you never lead somebody to your home. You never lead them to where you lay your head, ever. That's the rule number one.
I think that's why he stopped and got out of his car and said, do not follow me.
It's ridiculous. I can't see how they're not in handcuffs yet.
I know. All right, let's continue.
At this point, Weldon called a police officer named Brandon Strickland, who was in charge of the criminal investigations at the Horry County Police Department. This is the county where
Todd, it's Horry. The H is silent.
the shooting took place. Brandon told Weldon, I got the people coming that need to come, and indicated that he had handpicked the detective for the case. As I mentioned, the detective was Alan Jones.
Handpick the detective. Do you get to, who in the chat can handpick a detective to come out if you got a problem? Because I know I can't. I mean, make it make sense, my God. I mean, the writing is on the wall here.
September 10, 2023, the day after the shooting, Brandon called Weldon and apologized for not being able to be there. Brandon explained how he called the captain over investigations and told him who Weldon was. He said, quote, you were taken care of, unquote, and further reassured Weldon with the words, quote, I was in the shadows last night. I wasn't there, but I was in the shadows, unquote.
Stop it. You were taken care of. Y'all, I cannot with this. I do not like that at all.
During another phone call between Brandon and Weldon, Brandon advised him to keep a low profile and stay off Facebook. Brandon said, quote, if I thought you had something to worry about, I'd tell you. I'm telling you, you have nothing to worry about, unquote. In a phone call with a family member, Weldon said that Brandon told him that any warrants for his arrest would have to go through him. At another point, Brandon told Weldon that the investigation would have been more complicated if the person who died had been a black man, referring.
There it is. I told you it was Brandon. I'm telling you what, this case gets my blood pressure up. Hold on. Scarlett says somebody needs to figure out how Blaze got her script.
Yeah, and I responded to Scarlett because I need to know this one. That's an important one right there.
Yeah, you need to let me know on
I
that.
already shown a video where she wasn't right there as to the claim. I mean, I'm not saying that she didn't, see what was going on. Of course she did, but
I cannot with this whole. Brandon, you done messed up, boy. I'm telling you what. No wonder you resigned from your position.
Through him. At another point, Brandon told Weldon that the investigation would have been more complicated if the person who died had been a black man. Referring to Scott's race, Brandon said, quote, I'm glad it's a white male, unquote. Later, he continued with this theme, saying, quote, "You would have really had people running their mouths then. White business owner shoots black male," unquote. Well,
Oh, so, oh my gosh. Okay.
it made it seem like he enjoyed the shooting when he told Bradley, quote, "I know it's blanked up to say, but I had a blanking blast. I had a good time," unquote.
Exactly. That was another quote that was recorded, that he had an effing blast shooting Scott Spivey. He also, by the way, in case when you guys go back and watch these live streams, after he shot Scott, he went over there and took pictures of Scott's body. Yes.
Yes, Chico, I fully agree with you too. But I think the point that he was saying is there would have been a lot more hell to pay and nobody to cover it up for him.
Chico, this shit just pisses me off. Period.
She's right. She's absolutely right.
I know. I know. And then he had an effing blast shooting Scott.
Right?
And don't forget that he took pictures of Scott's body.
Yep.
What kind of sick individual are we dealing with here?
I mean, the same one who gets pissed off at his baby's mama because he can't get her back and sends pictures of guns and shit threatening her to where she has to ask the court to get a mental evaluation on him. And some people have made the remarks, oh, it's because of what he's seen when he was in the military. Miss me with that bullshit. Because he was National Guard. He didn't go to war. I mean, come on now.
I digress.
Weldon appeared to be confident that Brandon Strickland. Can I tell you, we had a lot of my friends work together on this for us. We definitely did, unquote.
Right there. I mean, that's the nail in the coffin right there.
Yep.
Just toss that
But
out.
now he had a lot of friends working for us, but this is the same one that he had to lie to and say, oh, we pulled over to fix couches. Make this shit make sense. I swear.
To get the whole gist, you know.
Weldon predicted this would have been ugly if Scott had traveled a mile farther on Camp Swamp Road because he would have left Horry County. During a conversation with his mother, Weldon indicated that he chased Scott after Scott aimed a gun at Bradley's head. Weldon said, quote, "Oh, I was on his blank, and his truck couldn't outrun my truck, and he knew it. So yeah, he was terrified," unquote.
He was terrified. He was terrified. Is what the words actually say is, I was on his ass and he knew his truck couldn't outrun my truck. He was terrified I was on his ass.
Yeah, you tell me if
wait a second.
It sounds like Weldon is in fear for his life.
Well, but see, that's not the only misstep of freaking Weldon, because in one point he says that he pointed it at his friend's head, which means that's a 2-lane road. To point it at his friend's head turned around, he seen the gun point at it. That means he would have to be in the right lane, and that Weldon would have to be in the left lane. But in another statement, he says that he turned around and the gun was pointed at his head. Make up your mind.
All the footage that we ever saw on the side of the road always shows Weldon behind him, and they were in that far left lane.
I got videos and pictures, and I'm telling y'all, there's not one of Weldon being beside him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and that's what he said. Okay, I don't know what happened to Duchess. Duchess.
Okay, apparently I just went to the moon. I don't.
That's what I was like. What happened to Duchess?
I don't know what just happened.
I was like, Duchess?
Oh, Lord, I just went to the moon, y'all. Nonsense says, what was the words he said again while on the phone? Something like he enjoyed it. Yeah. He said he had an effing good time.
Yep.
I did. I went to the moon.
He said, I had an effing blast.
A tree fell, Chico. That's exactly what happened. Y'all don't be talking about my trees falling down here. Okay, let's continue.
All these recordings brought up two major concerns. It undermined Weldon's claim of self-defense by making him seem too aggressive, and it pointed to potential corruption on the part of the police. Did their relationship with Weldon influence the outcome of the investigation? On March 11, 2025, Brandon Strickland resigned. His lawyers told the media that Brandon had not exerted any influence on the case, and they pointed out that there is a huge difference between public corruption and poor taste. On April 17, 2025, the top administrator for Horry County asked the state law
Todd.
enforcement
Remember, I
division
used to do that
to
too.
reopen the case. At the time I'm making this
True.
video, there is no investigation, and the case is still considered to be closed.
No, it's not closed now. So, but that was a good synopsis. And he pointed out a lot of the questionable things, which is why we are in the state of a civil lawsuit and why Alan Wilson was sent this case to review. He determined that Weldon and Kenneth should both get immunity. And of course, Mark Tinsley was not having it. People have been writing Alan Wilson, calling, demanding there to be another prosecutor to look over this case, review all the evidence, review the corruption within the Horry County PD. And that is why he has now selected his friend, Barry Barnette in Spartanburg County, South Carolina, to look at this case and investigate and see if he feels like there needs to be a different outcome than what Alan Wilson has determined. And y'all just please keep Scott's family in your thoughts and prayers. Because listen, was Scott drinking? Yes. Does that mean that he deserved to die? No. Because this could have been handled by law enforcement if he needed to be arrested, if he had to do jail time, whatever that looked like, whatever should have happened. Law enforcement should have been the one to make that judgment call, not Weldon Boyd. He is not the law. This is not vigilante justice. And it's definitely, in my opinion, not a stand your ground situation when you pursue someone for 9 miles, terrifying them because your truck is faster than them and you're not going to stay off of his ass because you're going to pursue him at all cost. That does not have anything that rings to me that you are feeling threatened for your life. This just sounds like a bunch of made up bullshit to me by Weldon. And I just don't think it's right. And right is right and wrong is wrong. It should have been handled much differently. And had it been handled differently, Scott Spivey might still be alive today. Do you have anything you want to add, AJ, to that?
No, I think it's just, like I said at the beginning, the law is the law. It just needs to apply across the board.
I agree.
And I mean, honestly, nobody even knew that Wilson was gonna send anything to Barrett and say, to reopen it, to look at everything. So my question is, if you really want to make it fair, why not choose like somebody? I mean, you can do special prosecutors that are not even from South Carolina. They've done it many of times. Why not send it to somebody that there's no link to from either side?
Exactly. And once again, goes back to the 911 operator. I mean, how do you not tell someone to stop following a pickup truck when they're saying there's an angry drunk with a gun? I think I'll follow him. We're angry and armed too. I mean, what could go wrong? Well, we know the outcome of that. You follow a person for miles and then want to claim self-defense.
And you brag about it. His truck couldn't outrun mine. He was terrified. Those words right there, along with the sentence, I'm going to sweep him the whole way. He's running from me.
Yep, that was his. Yeah, that was his words. I couldn't
drew.
remember, but that was it. I'm going to sweep him the whole way.
Yep, he said, I'm going to sweep him the whole way. And part of the law states and reads that if the person, if the first aggressor backs off, then the stand your ground law would no longer apply. So even if we do assume that he was texting or accidentally, almost ran him off, like, who knows? But even if we do assume that that is what happened, then still, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is when you said he tried to run from me, that right there, that was it. He withdrew.
Yeah. And in my opinion, this is just a case of corruption. I mean, at its finest. It's who you know, how much money you have, what
And that
favors everybody can do for everybody else. If you know somebody, well, we're going to look after you. And that is not justice. That's not fair. It should be fair across the board. It does sound like intent, Chico. I agree.
Yep.
Well, Elizabeth, you're definitely not wrong about that. And that's why I will never patronize that restaurant. You'll never catch me there. I've never been there. I'll never go there. They won't get a dime of my money.
Weldon just has this thing about him that the law and the rules don't apply. And that's not my opinion. That's fact. We can go all the way back to COVID when he was told not to open. And he was like, F y'all, I'm opening anyway. And sure enough, he opened. You know what I mean? We can go to the federal lawsuit that's filed against him right now by his own ex-employees for laws that they're claiming he broke. I mean, it's clear that he thinks that he is above having to follow rules.
Yeah. Hey, Rubber Ramada, it's good to see you. I saw you in chat earlier. I'm sorry I couldn't say hey to you at that time. I'm glad to see you here. So, we just wanted to present you the information that we had, let you know a little bit into history about Alan Wilson and some of the things going on in our state with him, as well as with Barry Barnette. And we just have to hope for the best at this point. Is it going to turn out fair? I hope so. I hope that Alan Wilson will be able, and Barry Barnette especially, because he's the one making this call. I hope he's going to be able to look through all of this evidence and realize that it's a clear cut of this is not an immunity situation. I mean, there is enough evidence just in these phone recordings and the activity of the Horry County Police Department, just from these couple of officers, Brandon Strickland and Paul Vescovi alone, that shows that they are covering for Weldon Boyd. This is a case of a person that was drinking, and it's something that law enforcement should have been allowed to handle instead of someone taking the law into their own hands and taking someone's life. So I do appreciate each of you for joining tonight, and thank you for all of the members, Carrie and Alma, Peekaboo, Elizabeth, Michelle, Chico, Roro, Crystal, Callie. I see we got Ashley Livingston. She's a new member. I gifted out 10 memberships, so welcome to all the new members. And Callie has been a member for 2 months. I appreciate all of the members for supporting Dutch Girl Myrtle Beach. And we're going to be having a live on Sunday, AJ and I, about the Tyler Doyle case. And that will be around, I believe it's 8 o'clock on Sunday night. I hope you guys will be able to join us for that part 2 recap that I had to cancel because my father fell and I had to go out of state unexpectedly. So, hey, Summer Girl, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. If you're just coming into this, we're getting ready to close the live stream out. I hope you will take the time to rewind, hit that like button, and share this live out. We're going to continue to pray for justice and for Scott Spivey's family. I know this has been very difficult for his parents as well as his sister, who is fighting. And our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers go out to them, because I know this has to be extremely exhausting. Just trying to feel like they're getting a fair shake.
Right. Like crazy.
Absolutely. And again, I do appreciate you guys joining me. It's so good to be back and to see everybody. And I do appreciate y'all joining me. And of course, Harley is not up here. And I'm upstairs in my art room because I finally got my studio finished. So I wanted to give y'all a picture of the baby because she's not in here. But I made her some homemade treats. So she is itching to get in this door. But I know she'll probably hit the computer and I'll go to the moon again. So I wanted to share a little picture of baby girl because she just loves it whenever I go live, because she wants to come on and say so. But I hope to see you guys on Sunday, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I'm gonna play you guys out with a little outro. So everybody have a safe week, and I'll see you guys on Sunday when we talk about Tyler's case. And when we have some more updates on Scott's case, you can expect AJ and I to be back live, and we will bring you all of the latest updates.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Take care, everybody. Bye, y'all.